Dumbbell RDL. So you're gonna start by grabbing a pair of dumbbells and set your feet so they're about hip width apart and your toes are pointing straight forward. Your legs are gonna remain relatively straight, but not completely locked out. So make sure you have a slight bend at your knees. Make sure to brace your core and keep your chin relatively tucked. This is gonna help you to keep your spine neutral, so that flat back position, and you don't wanna look up at any time during the movement. That's a mistake I see all the time. So with RDLs, don't look up. I like to pick a focal point on the floor a few feet in front of me to just kind of stare at the entire time. That helps me to remember to actually not look up. As you come down, think about pushing your butt back, not just bending forward. This is very important. This movement is a hinging movement. So we want to push our butt back, not just lean our torso forward. And that's going to help to really emphasize the stretch in our glutes and our hamstrings. Think about when you have your hands full of groceries or your kids or whatever it is, and you're trying to close your car door, right? A lot of us do this kind of hinging motion backwards with our butt. That's exactly what I want you to think about when you're doing the RDL. And then once you can't push your butt back anymore, that's gonna be your end range. So don't come further below that, or else the tension is gonna actually shift from your glutes and your hamstrings and move more towards your lower back, which we don't want. Once you hit that end range position, you're gonna fire your glutes to drive your hips forward on the way up. The primary muscles that we're working with the RDL are gonna be our glutes and our hamstrings. But there are ways to bias each of those. So if we want to bias our hamstrings a little bit more with the RDL, you're going to try to keep your legs as straight as possible with just a very slight bend in your knees so they're not locked out. And if we want to bias more of our glutes with the RDL, you're going to bend your knees a little bit more, right around 30 degrees. You don't have to take out your protractor or anything, but a little bit more of a knee bend. And this is going to help us to bias our glutes a bit more in the RDL. And don't get me wrong, your hamstrings and your glutes are both absolutely working during either variation of the RDL, whether that's the bent knee or the straight leg. However, we can bias the hamstrings a bit more or the glutes a bit more just by manipulating how much bend in your knee you have as you're going through that RDL.